Hello everyone, welcome to the first work session on the chapter periodic classification of elements. So in this session we'll be covering about 20 questions along the lines of NEET. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. The elements with atomic number 21 and 30 belong to. This is a rather straightforward kind of a question. So here we have elements with atomic numbers 21 and 30. They're asking where these elements will actually belong to. So if you look at 21, there are different ways of answering this question. So if you look at where these elements belong to, okay, so in fact scandium is the element with atomic number 21 and zinc is the element with atomic number 30. Okay, so potassium is 19, calcium is 20. After calcium, right, so we'll have the elements starting from 21 to 30. So this is actually the 3D series where we will fill electrons into the 3D subshell. Okay, so the 3D series is also called as first transition series. So the other name for the 3D series is what? It is the first transition series. So the elements 21 to 30 atomic number, right, they will be belonging to the 3D series or the first transition series. We can also call them as transition elements. In transition element, this is the first series. Okay, look at question number 2. Question number 2, the atomic number of the element next to I53, okay, in the same group. So we have an element. So here 53 is basically what? This is the atomic number. So this is the atomic number of the respective element. So we need to find what is the atomic number of the next element in that group. So if you look at what will be the next element in that group, if you see the way the atomic numbers will increase from one element to other element in the group, we can understand this by looking at the 18th group. So if you look at 18th group, right, helium atomic number is what? 2. Then neon atomic number is what? 10. So there is a difference of 8. Then argon atomic number 18. There is a difference of 8. Then we have after argon we'll get krypton. Okay. Then so the krypton atomic number will be 36. The gap will be 18. Okay. So after krypton we'll be having xenon atomic number 54. Gap will be 18. After xenon we'll have radon. So radon atomic number 86. The gap will be 32. So this is also first, when we move from, this is the first period. So only two elements will be there in the first period, hydrogen and helium. Second period we have what? 8. So then third period again 8. Then fourth we'll have 18. Fifth period, so we'll be having 18. Then sixth and seventh periods, seventh period is of course incomplete period. Sixth period, right, in the main table we'll have 32 elements, because remember the 4F series, right, lanthanide series also comes in the sixth period, but we don't keep in the main table, we'll keep it separate. Okay, so now here when we look at it, right, so what is this element? Atomic number 53 means this is the element in the 17th group. So this is where we have this element. Okay, so this is the element. What is the element that is going to come after that in the same group? We have to add 32. So what is it? The atomic number of that element that is going to come next will be what? 53 plus 32. That is going to be what? That is going to be 85. So what is the answer for this? Option C, which is 85. So whenever we have questions like this, right, we will try to look at what are the atomic numbers of the 18th group elements or the noble gas elements. Based on that we can backtrack. Okay, so this method is used, this backtracking method from the inert gases is used to find position of elements in the table. So this method is used to find the position of elements in the table and also to answer questions like this. Okay, so next look at this. This is another tricky question. Atomic radii values generally presented for, this is important, atomic radii values generally presented for fluorine and neon and angstrom units respectively will be. So when we talk about the atomic radius, right, so fluorine and neon, they will belong to the same period. So what is that? This is the second period actually. So beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, this is the second period. When we move from left to right in any period, the atomic radius value will be what? It will be decreasing, because we are not adding any more shells, and nuclear power will be increasing. So the outermost electron will come under more nuclear power. So we'll say the effective nuclear power or effective nuclear charge acting on the outermost electrons. The outermost electrons are the valence electrons, right? Will be increasing as we move from left to right. So thereby the outermost shell will be actually, so if you have the nucleus, and this is the outermost shell, since the outermost shell is coming under more effective nuclear power, the outermost shell will be shrinking inwards. So the atomic radius will be decreasing. Okay, but here there is a catch. What is it? If you look at the question statement, the atomic radius values generally presented for fluorine and neon. See, if you go by the normal atomic radius value, actual atomic radius values, so what is the conclusion we'll have? Fluorine radius should be more than neon. The fluorine radius should be more than neon. So if you look at these options, right, option A, fluorine is less. Option B, they both are given same, not possible. Option C, they both are given same, not possible. Option D, fluorine is 1.2 and neon is 1.1. But when we look at atomic radius, right, there is no direct way in which we can actually get the atomic radius values. When we measure the atomic radius, there are mainly there are three different methods in which we can measure what is the approximate value for the atomic radius. One is the method where we will try to get the radius value from the covalent molecules formed by the particular element. So we'll call that particular radius as covalent radius. And the other one is where we'll get the radius value from the metallic state of the element. We call it as metallic radius. And the third type is when we have the element without forming any bonding. So we'll have van der Waals radius. That is generally what is used in the case of the inert gases. So the noble gases or inert gases, right, especially the helium, neon, argon, for them the atomic radius values that we measure will be the van der Waals radius. For things like fluorine and all, we will get the covalent radius. So when we say the atomic radius values that are presented, so when we present the values, right, generally for neon, the value of the radius that will be given is van der Waals radius, and van der Waals radius, the van der Waals radius values will be generally very high. They will be very high in comparison to the covalent radius values. The van der Waals radius values will be generally very high in comparison to covalent radius. So that is the reason why whenever we look at any period, right, we will see always that abnormally that inert gas element should be having the minimum radius. Because if you go from left to right, what are we saying? The radius must decrease. It should be having minimum radius. But when you look at the values given for the inert gases, right, we will see that always it is very high. The reason being that the values presented for the inert gas elements, they are what? They are not the covalent radius. We cannot compare them with the rest of the elements of the period. That is a different kind of radius that is measured. What is it? Van der Waals radius. So generally it will be significantly higher than the covalent radius values that are presented for the rest of the elements. So the correct answer for this question will be what? It is going to be option A. Because look at it, fluorine, what is it? 0.72. I mean, here we are answering this question without even knowing what is the actual values of radius. We don't know. I mean, we can't even remember. So we can't keep on remembering saying, okay, fluorine is this much, neon is this much, like that we cannot remember. But we are able to answer the question by looking at the common analogy. What is it? When we look at the presented values of the fluorine and neon radius, what we must have? The neon radius should be exceptionally higher, because the value that we present for neon is what? It is the van der Waals radius. Where what is the van der Waals radius? 2 nearby, because neon is what? Monoatomic gas, right? 2 nearby neon atoms, when they come, based on the internuclear distance, right, half of the internuclear distance will be the van der Waals radius, because there is no bonding between the neon atoms, they will be quite apart. So that is the reason why the van der Waals radius values are significantly higher. So what is the correct answer for this? It is option A. Okay. Now we will move on to the next question. So look at the question number 4. Which of the following oxides is a basic oxide? So what are these elements given over here? Carbon, silicon, germanium. Okay, so then the next element that will come in that group will be tin and then lead. Okay, of course here tin is not given. So we have the oxides of carbon, silicon, germanium. Tin is not there, lead is given. Okay, so when we go down a group, oxides will become more basic. When we go down any group, the oxide nature will become what? More basic. Okay, so here what they are asking, which of the oxides is more basic? So which means what is the element that is sitting at the bottom? It is the lead. So among these given oxides, right, CO2, SiO2, germanium oxide and PbO2, which is going to be more basic in nature? It is the lead oxide. PbO2 will be more basic in nature. Okay, so the nature of the oxides will become more basic as we move down the group. So in a period, what happens? If you move in a period from left to right, the oxides will become more acidic. So in a period, if you move from left to right, means the oxides will become more acidic. Next we have question number 5. In fact, this IUPAC name, this is the question based on what? The IUPAC naming of unknown elements. The element with atomic number 105 is known as, okay, so we need to name the element with the atomic number 105. So look at this. If you have the element with atomic number 105, so how do we name as per the IUPAC nomenclature? So we have to look at each of these digits and see what is the corresponding abbreviation. So first digit is what? 1. So 1 means what is the abbreviation? U. 0, what is the abbreviation for that? N. Okay, and 5, what is the abbreviation for that? It is P. And what is the, if you want to give the name for this, right? So we got our answer. What is the answer for this? It is UNP. That is the symbol that we give. This is actually what? This is the symbol. Okay, but if you have to give the name, okay, so if you have to give the name, we have to look at these so these name letters. So what is it? First it is 1, so 1 will be what? Un. And second digit is what? 0, so 0 will be nil, unnil. And third digit is what? 5. Okay, so pent. And we have to end this name with IUM. So what is the name for this element going to be? Unnilpentium, but the symbol will be UNP. For this element the symbol will be what? UNP. And if you have to give the name, means it will be what? Unnilpentium. So the naming, right, will be done. So naming will be done by using these corresponding names that will represent the digits. And if you want to give the symbol, means we will use the abbreviations. So for 0 it is what? Nil, symbol is N. For 1 the name is un, symbol is U. For 2 it is bi, symbol is B. For 3 it is tri, symbol is T. For 4 it is quad and symbol is Q. For 5 it is pent, symbol is P. For 6 it is hex, symbol is H. For 7 it is a sept, symbol is S. For 8 it is oct, symbol is O. For 9 it is ENN, symbol is what? E. So these are the corresponding names and abbreviation that we need to keep in mind. So accordingly we will be able to name any of these elements. Like say for example, even any element that is not even known to us, like they can even give questions on things like what will be the IUPAC nomenclature for element with atomic number say 250. Like that also they can give us questions. So we need to be ready to answer all those questions. So we have to remember this table. So what is the corresponding letter name based upon the digit value and the abbreviation. So letter names will be used for giving the full name and abbreviations will be used for giving the symbol. When we are giving the full name, we have to end the full name with IUM. Let us go to the next question. This is question number 6. Which of the following elements have electron affinity greater than sulfur? So if you look at these elements, right, what are these elements? In the options we have oxygen, selenium, tellurium. Okay, so where these elements actually come? Oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium. These are all the elements of the 16th group. So all these are what the elements of the 16th group. Now what is electron affinity? Electron affinity represents what is the energy released by an atom, gaseous atom of the element, when one extra electron is added to it. Okay, so if we go down any group, the electron affinity, okay, this can be also quantified in terms of electron gain enthalpy. This can be also quantified in terms of what? Electron gain enthalpy. Okay, so if you go down the group, the electron affinity values or electron gain enthalpy values will actually decrease. They'll be decreasing. So the reason being that as you go down the group, the outermost shell will become farther and farther from the nucleus, and the electronegativity of the element also will decrease. That is the reason why we have the electron affinity values will be decreasing down the group. Okay, now if we talk about the second period elements, whether it is the oxygen or in the next group we have fluorine. So second period elements will have they are supposed to have a higher electron affinity than the third period elements in any group. So second period elements are supposed to have higher electron affinity than the third period. Why? Because as you go down the group, electron affinity values will actually decrease. But if you consider the oxygen or fluorine, they have just two shells. So for the oxygen or fluorine, the outermost shell is the second shell. So if you see already here in case of oxygen, right, second shell will be filled with 6 electrons. In case of fluorine, second shell will be filled with 7 electrons. Now due to the small size of these second period elements, the incoming electron will experience repulsive forces from the existing electrons. Due to the small size of the atom, the incoming electron will experience repulsive forces. As a result, the amount of energy that is released will be lowered. Means less energy will be released. The less energy released means what? The electron affinity values also will be lesser. In fact, they will be lesser than the third period elements. So this is what we call as the second period anomaly in case of electron affinity values. Why it happens? Because of the exceptionally small size of the second period elements, typically the oxygen and fluorine, and the incoming electron will be repelled by the existing set of electrons. As a result, the amount of energy released will be lowered. So hence the electron affinity values, right? See, generally what we expect, if you go by the normal order, it should be oxygen more than sulfur, more than selenium, more than tellurium, more than polonium. Polonium of course is anyway radioactive. Okay, but here the anomaly of the second period elements, right, which would mean that sulfur will be more than oxygen. So sulfur will be more than oxygen, selenium. So this is happening because of the small size of the oxygen. Same will also repeat in the case of the 17th group elements. So chlorine will have a higher electron affinity than fluorine. So look at the question here. What is the question? Which of the following elements have electron affinity greater than sulfur? So because of the second period anomaly, right, oxygen is having a lesser electron affinity than sulfur. Selenium, tellurium, anyway they are having lesser electron affinity than sulfur. So what is the answer for this? None of these. So none of them are having electron affinity greater than sulfur. Okay, because of the second period anomaly, oxygen will have a lesser electron affinity than sulfur. Similarly, in the 17th group, right, same reason, fluorine will have a lesser electron affinity than chlorine. Look at the next question, question number 7. The valence shell of element X contains 2 electrons in 5s subshell. Remember 5s subshell, what is the capacity of S subshell? 2 electrons. Means 5s is fully filled, 5s2. Below that shell, the element X has partially filled 4d. Means what? Remember, after filling 5s only, we will start filling electrons into 4d, isn't it? That is the increasing order of energy of subshells. So 4d is not completely filled. It is only what? This is only partially filled. This is only what? The 4d is only partially filled. Now look at, no, so then what type of element is this X? So what is this element? So we have completely filled 5s and we are starting to fill 4D, means what? This is partially filled. This is what? Partially filled. Okay, so what is this element? This is an element which belongs to, since we are filling electrons into 4D, what do we call it as? It is an element in the 4D series of the transition elements set or the D block elements. So we can also call it as the second transition series. What we can call it as? We can call it as the second transition series, because 3D, scandium to zinc. Okay, then 4D. Okay, so 4D is what? Yttrium to cadmium. So this is about the 4D series. Okay, so these elements will be what? These are what? Transition elements. So the element X, they didn't actually tell us how many electrons are being filled into 4D subshell. They just said it is partially filled, means what? This is an element that is belonging to the 4D series or the second transition series, means this is a transition element. So correct answer for this is what? Option D. Next we'll go to question number 8. So look at this. Match the species with their respective ionic size. Here if you take a closer look at it, right? What are these ions? Just take a closer look at them. What are these? Mg2 plus, O2 minus, Na plus, F minus. You know what are all these? All these are what? Isoelectronic species. Check it. Magnesium. What is the atomic number of magnesium? 12. 2 plus means losing 2 electrons. Look at this, Mg2 plus will have 10 electrons. O2 minus. Oxygen normally atomic number 8. 2 minus means it has gained 2 electrons, means totally 10. Sodium plus. Sodium atomic number 11. Plus means it has lost 1 electron, remaining 10. F minus. Fluorine atomic number 9. Gained 1 electron. Number of electrons is what? 10. All of them are what? Isoelectronic species. Now remember, here we have to match the ionic size. We don't know, I mean, you know, whether the O2 minus is 1.19 or 0.72. We don't know. The exact values we will not know. Here when they give a question like this, right, they are expecting us to answer this by following the ionic size comparison when it comes to the isoelectronic species. Isoelectronic species, they will have the same number of electrons. Isoelectronic species, they will be having the same number of electrons. Now, how are we going to compare the radius of isoelectronic species? So when it comes to comparison of the radius of isoelectronic species, the rule is like this. Okay, so we have to look at what is the nuclear charge. We have to look at what is the nuclear charge. So if we look at the nuclear charge, magnesium, what is the nuclear charge? So ions, they will only have a difference in terms of electrons. The ion nuclear charge will be same as the respective atom nuclear charge, because protons are not being disturbed. Okay, so magnesium, it will have 12 protons. Oxygen, nucleus will have only 8 protons. Sodium, nucleus will have 11 protons. Fluorine, nucleus will have 9 protons. Okay, so wherever the nuclear charge is more, so here we can see what is it? Magnesium 2 plus, the nuclear charge is what? More, highest, 12 protons. So when the nuclear charge is more for the isoelectronic species, okay, high nuclear charge would mean the corresponding radius will be what? Low, because you know when the nuclear, all of them are having the same number of electrons in the orbits. So high nuclear charge means what? The radius will be shrinking further, means the radius will be lower. So if you look at it, right, so we can just arrange them based on the nuclear charge. So where the nuclear charge is highest? Magnesium. So magnesium 2 plus will have the least radius. Then comes Na plus. Then comes F minus. Then comes, this is the radius comparison. So among these, right, so P is what? Mg2 plus. So look at where we have the least radius. Look at this, 0.72, means P should be matched to 2. Look at this, P is matched to 2. So we have two options for this. P is matched to 2, both B as well as C. Then what is it? So we'll just try to O2 minus. O2 minus will have the highest. What is the highest value here? You can see 1.26. So Q should be matched to 4. So you can see both of them are coinciding. Okay. Now next comes R. R is what? Na plus. R is what? Na plus. Okay. So this is 0.72. This is 1.26. Now what are the two values we have? 1.16 and 1.19. So Na plus will be 1.16 and F minus will be what? 1.19. Isn't it? Because Mg2 plus will be the least, then Na plus, then F minus, then O2 minus. Means the Na plus is what? 1.16. Means R should be matched to 3. R is matched to 3. S is matched to 1. So look at this, guys. What is the correct match? It is option C. What is the correct match for this? It is what? Option C. So how we look at the radius of the isoelectronic species? For the isoelectronic species, the number of electrons will be same, and the difference will be only in terms of the nuclear charge. So when the nuclear charge is more, the corresponding isoelectronic species will have the least radius, like that. Next we will go to question number 9. Choose the correct order of radius of the following species. So what are the species here? It's a pretty straightforward question. Now look at this. What are these species here? We have Na, which is the sodium atom, Na plus, the cation formed from the sodium, and Na minus, the anion formed from sodium. So if you have an element, we remove an electron. So if you remove an electron, what happens? So we have the nucleus. Okay. So we have the orbits and we have the electrons inside the orbits. So when you remove an electron, thereby we will form a cation. So for a cation, right, the nuclear charge will be more than the total number of protons inside the nucleus will be more than number of electrons outside. Okay. So here, as a result of it, right, the outermost electrons will come under more influence of the nucleus, because we are losing some electron. The total number of protons inside the nucleus will be more than total number of electrons outside. So the outermost electron will be now attracted with a more stronger nuclear power. So cations will have a lesser radius than the normal atom. So for any element you take, cation will be having a lesser radius than normal atom. Okay. And here we can even have some exceptional case here. Why? Because look at this. So normally sodium means what? What is it? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. Okay, this is the electronic arrangement. So we have 3 orbits. But once sodium has lost that one electron, it means what? The third orbit is fully gone. Now Na plus is only having how many orbits? 2 orbits. Because what is the Na plus arrangement? Na plus arrangement will be what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. It is only having 2 orbits. So third orbit itself is gone. So that is the reason why Na plus will have even lesser radius. But generally, cation, right, the moment we remove an electron, the nuclear power will be more than the outer number of electrons. So the electrons will come under more influence of nucleus, and the valence electrons also will come under more influence of nucleus. Thereby what happens? Thereby we will see that the size will be shrinking. So cation will be always lesser in size than the normal atom. But the scene will be reversed when it go to the anion. Anion means what? We are, so if you look at anion, right, so I'll just erase this part so that we can redraw the diagram for the anion. So if you look at anion case, what is going to happen? It is the other trend. So what is going to happen in case of anion? So we have the nucleus. Okay, so we have the nucleus, and so let me shake the nucleus. Okay, so we have the orbits. So if you add an electron, then what is going to happen is the nuclear charge, which is quantified by the number of protons, nuclear charge will be now lesser than the total number of negative charge, number of electrons. So as a result, what is going to happen? The number of electrons are more than the nuclear charge that is sitting inside the nucleus. So the effect on each and every electron will be slightly reduced. Say for example, in the previous case, right, so 11 protons are trying to exert the effect on 11 electrons. Now when we add 1 electron, means now the 11 protons are trying to exert their force on 12 electrons. So each and every electron will now experience a little bit lesser effect. And not only that, when we add an electron, right, what is going to happen? there will be repulsion between these already existing electron and the added electron. So as a result, they will try to slightly increase the space around the nucleus. So thereby the size will be actually what? Increasing. So the anion size will be generally more than the normal atom. So what is the correct order for this? Look at this. Na plus cation will be less than the sodium normal atom, will be less than Na minus anion. So cation, so look at this, cation will be less than the normal atom, will be less than the corresponding anion. Okay, so when we are making the atom to lose electron means the cation size will be lesser than the respective atom. When electron is gained means the anion radius will be more than the respective atom. Okay. So next question number 10. Which of the following processes is endothermic? Endothermic means what? It is energy absorbing. So endothermic means what? It is energy absorbing. Okay. So look at this. Option A is what? Sulfur becoming S minus. This is what? This represents electron gain enthalpy, isn't it? So electron gain enthalpy is what? The energy released when an electron is added to a gaseous, neutral gaseous atom. Okay. Similarly, in the option C as well as option D, all of them are what? Electron gain enthalpy. So we are adding the electron to sodium, we are adding electron to phosphorus. But if you look at the option B, we are trying to add electron to already negative ion. So when we try to add electron to negative ion, right? So this is what we'll generally refer to as the second electron gain enthalpy. Means when we are adding second electron. So generally when we are adding second electron, right? See sulfur. Okay, so let us just look at the valence. So sulfur will have 6 electrons in the valence. Okay, so 5, 6. We added 1 electron means it will become 7. That is S minus. Okay. Now when we are trying to add one more electron, already this is what? Anion. S minus is anion. So when we try to add the second electron, right? So there will be repulsion. S minus is anion, negative charge. It will repel the incoming electron overall. So as a result, right, the second electron gain enthalpies will not be negative. See, we will study about this in thermodynamics. The enthalpy change in negative means it represents what? Energy is released. Enthalpy change in negative means what? Energy is released. Okay. But the second electron in enthalpy will not be negative, but rather it will be positive. Means to supply the second electron, right, we have to give energy. So this is not an exothermic where the energy will be released. This is actually what? Endothermic. What is this process? This is an endothermic process. So second electron gain enthalpy, not only in the case of sulfur, even in the case of oxygen also, when we are trying to add the second electron to oxygen, that will be what? It will be an endothermic process. It will be an energy absorbing process. So what is the answer for this? It is option B. Okay, so the process that will be endothermic is what? The second electron gain enthalpy process will be an endothermic process. It will not release energy, it will be absorbing energy. We have to supply energy for that. Okay. Next we have a theoretical question, question number 11. Which of the following statements is incorrect? What is statement A? With the decrease in electronegativity in a group, the metallic character increases. So here focus on one thing. We are looking for what is the incorrect statement. What is statement A? With the decrease of electronegativity in a group. So remember, when you go down a group, right, what is going to happen? Electronegativity decreases. And the metallic nature, what happens to metallic nature? Increases. So as you go to the group, we'll see stronger metallic nature. Like even if you look at the first group, right, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium. As you go down the group, what do you see? In this group, cesium will be leaving out francium, because francium is what? Radioactive element. We don't study much about them. But cesium will be what? Strong metallic in nature. So this is correct. This is correct. But remember, we are looking for the incorrect. Look at statement B. Smaller ionization energy value indicates that the electropositive character is more. Look at this. Small ionization energy. Small ionization energy means what? Say for example, we always keep talking about it, the alkali metals in any period. Say for example, we look at the second period or third period, I mean whichever period you take, alkali metals will have the least ionization energy. So least ionization energy means what? Say for example, from sodium, so we have the first orbit, this is the first orbit, second orbit, third orbit. So least ionization energy means what? The electron from the sodium can be easily removed. Means what? That indicates strong metallic nature or strong electropositive. Means by losing electron they can easily form the cations. That is what we call as the electropositive character, right? So that is also correct. So small ionization energy value indicates what? The electron can be easily removed, and hence that particular atom can easily form cations. Means what? It indicates the electropositive character. Look at option C. What is option C? Electronegativity does not depend upon the Z effective. Okay, what is option C? Electronegativity does not depend upon the Z effective. So this, if we would have seen the factors on which electronegativity depends, we will be able to conclude this. But anyway, look at it. Okay, so what is this Z effective representing? So we have the nucleus. Okay, and so you pick up any orbit. So if there is electron in that orbit, the total nuclear power, so if the Z represents atomic number of the element, the total Z number of protons influence will not be acting on the electron. So any electron will only experience a part of this nuclear power. So why? Because there will be the repulsion acting on the electron because of the electrons of the inner orbits as well as the other electrons in the same orbit. So as a result, the effective nuclear charge is what is the nuclear force acting on the electron, any electron we pick up. Now the electronegativity. So electronegativity represents what? If you go by the definition of electronegativity, it is the ability of an element to attract the bond pair of electrons towards itself in a covalent bond. So if you have two elements A and B forming a bond, okay, so by sharing electrons, then the ability of element, so for example we say that A is more electronegative, means A will be able to pull the electrons more strongly towards it. Okay, so if you say that A has high electronegativity, means what? A will be able to pull the electrons more strongly towards it. So the electronegativity value, right, it of course depends upon the Z effective. Why? Because higher Z effective means what? That particular electron will be under stronger influence of the nucleus. High Z effective, more Z effective means what? The nuclear force is what? High. Means that electron will be strongly attracted by the nucleus. So electronegativity does depend upon the Z effective. Here they are saying electronegativity does not depend upon the Z effective. Means this is the one that we are looking for. This is the wrong statement or incorrect statement. We can look at option D. What is option D? Successive ionization energy values always increase for an element. Why? Because see, think about it, right? If you have take for example forming Mg2 plus. How do we form Mg2 plus? First we will take magnesium, we remove an electron, we will form Mg plus, and Mg plus we remove another electron to form Mg2 plus. See, when we remove the first electron, we are forming Mg plus. Mg plus is what? Cation. When we are trying to remove an electron away from the cation, right, because the cation is already positive, you are trying to remove an electron from that, so this electron will not be easily given away. In case of Mg, we are removing electron from the neutral atom, but here we are removing electron from already a cation, so the energy requirement here in this case will be more. So successive ionization energy values, like in the case of aluminum, if you talk about it, right, so we have aluminum first forming aluminum plus, then aluminum plus forming aluminum 2 plus, then aluminum 2 plus will form aluminum 3 plus, like that. So the successive, so we will call them as what? IE. In case of aluminum, right, we will say it like this: IE3 will be more than IE2 will be more than IE1. Always IE1 means what? Ionization energy first, that is the ionization energy required for the removal of the first electron. IE2 means second electron, IE3 means third electron. So always the successive ionization energy values will be higher. Means if you are removing 4 electrons, means IE4 will be more than IE3 will be more than IE2 will be more than IE1, like that. Okay, so this is also correct statement. So what is the one that is wrong? They are saying electronegativity does not depend upon Z effective. Electronegativity value depends on the Z effective, because for any atom, when the Z effective value acting on the outermost orbit electrons is high, means what? The electrons are under greater influence of the nuclear power. So that means it is an indicative of high electronegativity. We'll go to question number 12. Look at this. Write the period number, group number and the block of an element having atomic number 42. So here this is like a straightforward question. So what we are supposed to do here, we can just write down the electronic arrangement. So when we need to find out what is the period number, group number and the block of the element with the given atomic number, right? So we first have to write what is the electronic configuration. So we have to write what is the electronic configuration. So let us just write the electronic configuration. So if you write the electronic configuration, right, so we have 42 electrons. What is it? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6. Of course, we have to keep in mind that before 3d we will fill 4s. But once we get that electronic arrangement, right, we can keep all the third orbit subshells together like that. Okay, so after filling 3p we will fill 4s, 4s2, then 3d10, then 4p6. Okay, this is 42. This is an abnormal electronic arrangement. So normally it should be what? 5s2. After filling 5s we will start filling electrons into 4d, 5s2, 4d4. But just like chromium, right, what is chromium? Atomic number 24. Remember, chromium, what do we have? We will not have 4s2, 3d4. We will be having what? 4s1, 3d5. Half filled D will be more stable. Same reason here also. It will be what? 4d5, 5s1. Abnormal electronic arrangement. Okay. Now we have to answer the question. So what is the question here? We have to find the period number. See, what is the period number? The outermost orbit. What is the outermost orbit here? Fifth orbit, right? Means what is the period number? It is the fifth period. What is the period number? It is the fifth period. Okay, and we have to tell what is the group number. We have to tell what is the group number. Okay, so what is the group number here? So if you look at the element, right, the element belongs to which block? Because we are filling the electrons into the 4d. Where are we filling the electrons into? Electrons are being filled into 4d, right? What is the element belong to? It belongs to the d block. Okay, so the outermost orbit is the fifth orbit, so it is the fifth period element. Okay, and the last electron is getting into what? D subshell. It is getting into the 4d subshell, so it is a d block element. Okay, and for the d block elements, right, how do we find the group number? So group number will be given by, so d block elements, what will be the general arrangement? It will be ns1 to 2, n minus 1d, 1 to 10, except palladium. What is the electronic arrangement? Outermost electronic arrangement is what? ns1 to 2, n minus 1d, 1 to 10. Okay, except the case of the palladium. So here the group number is given by the electrons in the ns level plus electrons in the n minus 1d level. So what is the number of electrons in the fifth? N represents what? Outermost orbit, 5s. What is the number of electrons here? 1. What is the number of electrons in n minus 1d level? Means 4d level. What is it? 5. So 1 plus 5 is equal to what? 6. Okay, so what is the group number here? 1 plus 5 is equal to what? 6. It is the sixth group. So what is the answer for this? It is fifth period, sixth group, and then D block. The element is what? It is the fifth period element, sixth group, and then D block. So whenever we write the electronic configuration, right, first thing we are going to observe is what? Period number, because outermost orbit is the period number, and the last electron where it is getting into. If it is getting into the S subshell, means it will be S block. If it is getting into D subshell, means it is D block element. If it is getting into P subshell, means it is P block element. If it is getting into F subshell, means it is F block element. Okay, so here the last electron is getting into D subshell. That is why it is what? D block element. Okay, and for the D block elements, group number is given by what? The outermost arrangement will be NS. Either we'll have NS level 1 or 2 electrons. N minus 1 D level we'll have 1 to 10. Okay, the group number is given by the number of electrons in ns level plus the number of electrons in the n minus 1 d level. That is the group number. Here what is it coming as? 6. Okay, so this is the answer for the 12th question. Look at 13th question. This is another interesting one. Match the elements with their corresponding IE1. IE1 means what? First ionization energy values. IE1 means what? First ionization energy values. Okay, so here before we even just take a look at it, right, we do not know what are these actual values. See, they are giving us what? Nitrogen, oxygen, beryllium, boron. We know for a matter of fact that these are all what? These are all the elements that will belong to the second period, correct? What is second period? Beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. This is second period. All these elements belong to second period, okay? So, beryllium, what is the electronic arrangement of beryllium? It is 1s2, 2s2. Boron, 1s2, 2s2, 2p1. Carbon, 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. Nitrogen, 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. Oxygen, 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. See, here we have to only bother about what? Beryllium, boron, nitrogen, oxygen, because these are the elements given to us. Generally, right, when we move from left to right in a period, the ionization energy values will increase. The ionization energy values will increase because the size of the atom will decrease, and the effective nuclear charge acting on the outermost electrons also will increase. So thereby the removal of electron will become difficult. The electrons are under more influence of nucleus, right? It will be difficult to remove these electrons. So ionization energy value will increase generally when we move from left to right. But in any period, if you look at it, right, there are exceptions. What are these exceptions? The second group, which is the beryllium, will have a completely filled 2s level. It will be having, ns level. Here, beryllium in this case, it is what? 2s. We can see beryllium, what is that arrangement? It is 1s2, 2s2. So here we have to remove the electron from 2s level. Already 2s is filled. Whereas in the case of boron, right, we'll remove the 2p, lone 2p electron. So generally when we move from the second group to third group, we should expect that ionization energy will increase. But when we talk about the beryllium and boron, right, beryllium is having 2s2 structure. S subshell is filled. Whereas boron is having lone electron in the 2p. Easy to remove. Because of this reason, right, the beryllium will have a higher value than boron. Beryllium will have a higher value than boron. So why is it so? Because beryllium is having a ns2 structure. That subshell, S subshell is filled. Whereas boron is having lone electron in the p. Easy to remove. That is why beryllium is more than boron. This is the exception. See, in examinations on especially these trends, etc., right, we have to focus only on the exceptional cases. Because general trends, they would not be giving us questions. General trend everyone remembers, right? So if at all they are giving questions, means they will try to give it only on the exceptions part. Okay. Now look at the other side. What is it? The nitrogen and oxygen. Again, when we move from left to right, we'll expect that the ionization energy increases. But here also there is an exception. Nitrogen is having 2p3 structure, half filled p. Because p, what is the total capacity? 6 electrons, right? 2p3 means it is filled with 3 electrons, half filled. This is a stable arrangement. In fact, in case of the half filled D and F, we have seen even it changes the electronic configuration itself. Like in the case of the chromium. So we have seen abnormal electronic arrangement. Why? Because of the half filled D structure. So here this abnormal electronic configuration will not come, but generally nitrogen will be stable. Half filled p structure is stable. So thereby removal of electron from nitrogen, right, will be a little bit difficult than removing it from oxygen, because this is what? Half filled p. What is this nitrogen? Half filled p structure. So nitrogen will be more than oxygen. Nitrogen will be more than what? Oxygen. So look at this. Generally when we move from left to right, it must increase. Okay. So what? Now that the discussion is over, right, I'll just write the order. So for any period, right, this is what we expect normally when we move from left to right, what we expect. So first I'll write down what is expected and what is this. So what is the normal expected thing? So normal expected order is what? Beryllium less than boron less than nitrogen less than oxygen, because we are moving from left to right. But after the exceptions, after the exceptional rules, what is the order we are concluding? Beryllium is more than boron. So boron, okay. Then nitrogen is more than oxygen. So now we look at these values. What are the values given to us? 800, 900. We just have to keep them. So 800 will come here. 900 will come here. Then 1300 will come here. Then 1400. So look at this. P is what? Nitrogen. Nitrogen should be 4. P is matched to 4. In fact, there is only one option that is matching P to 4. What is it? Option C. By that itself we are able to conclude, isn't it? So we can check. Then Q should be matched to 3. You can check it. Q is matched to 3. R, beryllium, is matched to 902. R is matched to 900. Yes, boron, matched to 1. So here, what are the two exceptions we are having? Beryllium, ionization energy value is more than that of the boron, and nitrogen is more than that of the oxygen. So here, this in any period you take second group and the 13th group. Okay, so in fact, so 13th group can be also called as what? The 3A group. 13th group, because some people still use that old nomenclature. They'll say third group. So third means 3A group, not the third group in the modern table. Third group in modern table means what? That scandium, yttrium, that is the third group in the modern table. But I mean the modern nomenclature. But when we say third group and we take it as boron, aluminum, right, what we're referring to is what? 3A group. Okay, so this is about the answer. So what is the answer for this? It is option C. Next we look at question number 14. So look at this question number 14. If an element X forms highest oxide of the formula XO3, then this element belongs to which group? See, if you have to form XO3 means the oxygen, what is the valency? Oxygen valency is 2. Okay, and this element XO3 means it is combining with 3 oxygens, means this element should show a valency of 6, the maximum valency, the 16th group. Of course, the oxygen itself will belong to 16th group. So what is 16th group? Oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium. Like sulfur can form SO3, sulfur trioxide. Okay, selenium also can form selenium trioxide. So the element X will be belonging to what? It will belong to the 16th group or the oxygen family. Remember, they can also be called as what? Chalcogens, because they will be the ore forming elements. Like most of the ores, right, they will be formed from the metals either in their oxide form or the sulfide form. Okay, so what is the answer for this question? It is option C, which is the 16th group. The highest oxide shown by the 17th group will be what? Highest oxide shown by the 17th group will be in this form. 17th group, right? They can show a maximum valency of 7. So the 17th group, right? They can show a maximum valency of 7. So when they show a maximum valency of 7, right? So they will be able to form iodine can form I2O7. Okay, iodine will be able to form I2O7. Okay, so nitrogen group, 15th group, they can form a maximum valency of 5. They can have a maximum valency of what? 5. So accordingly, we will have the oxide formula changing. Next, we look at question number 15. Look at this question. What is the atomic number of the element which belongs to 5th period and 16th group? So we have to find what is the atomic number of that element which belongs to what? 5th period and 16th group. See, here they are giving us the 4 options. Now the only way you can answer this is because we have to check these options, right? Because the 5th period and 16th group, I mean, either you look at the position of the element as per the periodic table and then get the atomic number. That is one way. Otherwise, we can check these atomic numbers, electronic configuration, and then decide. Okay, so whichever. So like, if you are very comfortable in terms of the atomic numbers, like I'll tell you, fifth period. See, fifth period means what? So the helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon. So this is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. This is the xenon. Xenon, what is the atomic number? 54. Xenon, what is the atomic number? 54. Okay, so xenon, this is the elements in this period will be what? Fifth period. The elements which are in the xenon period will be what? Fifth period. Okay, xenon, I mean the inert gas are 18th group. The one that will come before it means, one less, atomic number 53. That will be what? 17th group. You come one more step ahead. What is it? Atomic number 52. Okay, so that is the element which will be in the fifth period. So this is the fifth period, right? This is the fifth period and 16th group. So what is the answer for this? It is the element with atomic number 52. Like that we can answer. So if you remember the atomic numbers of the inert gases. So what are these? Helium is 2, neon is 10, argon is 18, krypton is 36, xenon is 54, then radon will be 86. So if you remember the inert gases atomic numbers, we can do the back calculation. In fact, in one of the previous question also we showed this approach. Okay, but otherwise what we can do? We can just take each of the elements, write down the electronic arrangement, and then go according to that. So what we can do, look at this. So we can take element with atomic number 50. We can write down the electronic arrangement. Maybe this is also a good exercise, because we can get to know how to write the electronic arrangement with the different atomic numbers. So what will be the arrangement? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, then 4s2, 3d10, 4p6, 5s2, 4d10, 5p2. Okay, so this is the fifth period, because outermost is what? Fifth. But this, what is this? This is not in the 16th group. This is in the 14th group. So how are we saying it is this is the p block, right? So p block, we look at ns electrons and np electrons. Ns, what is electrons? 2 electrons. 5s, 2 electrons. 2 plus 2 is what? 4. Means it is the 4a group. 4a group modern naming is what? 14th group. 4a group means modern it is what? 14th group. So this is not in the 16th group. Now we look at 34. 34 means what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 3d10, 4s2, 4p4. This is not even in the fifth period. Okay. Then we look at 52. This is the answer that we have marked before. Okay. So look at this: 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 3d10, 4s2, 4p6, then 4d. I mean, of course, here what we should keep in mind is that before filling 3d, we would have filled 4s. Okay, before filling 4d we would have filled 5s, like that. Okay, 4d10, 5s2, 5p4. After the electronic arrangement, we are grouping them together. Okay, so here we can see clearly this is what? This is the fifth period. This is the this element belongs to what? Fifth period, and the last entering electron is getting into the p, 5p. Okay, so add it, the 5s 2 electrons plus 5p 4 electrons, 6. So this is what? Element of the 6th A. In the modern numbering system, this is what? 16th group. 6A means what is it? 16th group. Correct. So that is our answer. We can also look at 53. So what is it? It will be what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, 3d10, 4p6, 5s2, 4d10, 5p5. You know what this is? Fifth period only. The 5s electrons and 5p electrons, if you add it, right, what is it? 2 plus 5 is 7. Means this is an element of the 7th A group. So in the modern numbering, it is what? The 17th group. Modern numbering, what is it? It is the 17th group. Okay, so this is how we can answer this question. So what is the answer for this? It is option C, which is the element with atomic number 52. So we can see, either we'll take that approach by looking at the inert gas atomic numbers and do a back calculation, or we can just take each and every option, write the electronic arrangement, and then accordingly choose our option. Okay, I think the first one will be little bit less time consuming, but the only thing is we must remember the atomic numbers of the inert gas elements for that. Okay, so this is how we'll be able to answer this particular question. Now we'll go on to the next one. So look at this. Choose the correct order of the property given below. So what are these? They are talking about different properties here. First one is what? Ionic radius. What are the given species? N3 minus. N3 minus means what? Nitrogen has gained 3 electrons. Nitrogen atomic number 7. Gained 3 electrons means 10 electrons. O2 minus. Oxygen 8 electrons normally. Atomic number is 8. 2 minus means it has gained 2 electrons. Totally 10. What are these two? These two are what? Isoelectronic species. What are these two? Isoelectronic species. Okay. Isoelectronic species. Comparison of the radius. What is the rule for the comparison of radius? When the nuclear charge is more. For the isoelectronic species, when the nuclear charge is more, the corresponding radius values will be lesser. The corresponding radius values will be what? Lesser. So here, the anions that are getting formed, or cations for that matter, only the number of electrons will change. Inside the nucleus, the number of protons will not change. Nitrogen, what is the number of protons? 7 protons. Oxygen, what is the number of protons? 8 protons. Where the nuclear charge is more? Oxygen case. Which means what? When the nuclear charge is more, the radius will be less. Means O2 minus will have a lesser radius than the N3 minus. Okay, so here if you just check it right, what they're asking, choose the correct order. Means first one is not correct. First is not correct. Okay, so look at option B. Nitrogen is more than oxygen in the first ionization energy. So remember, when we go in any period, like say nitrogen and oxygen belong to second period, right? So beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. When we move from left to right, the ionization energy values increase. Okay, but the nitrogen value will be more than oxygen. Why? Because nitrogen has got the electronic arrangement of half-filled p structure, 2p3 structure. Since the half-filled p structure is a stable one, to remove electron we have to supply more energy than in the case of the oxygen. So the nitrogen first ionization energy of nitrogen is more than oxygen. So the correct, that is what we are looking for, right? What is the correct one? The correct one is option B. Option B is actually a correct one. Okay, now we can read the other statements also. What is option C telling us? Option C is saying that nitrogen is more than oxygen in case of the second ionization energy. See, second ionization energy means what? Already we removed one electron. Means nitrogen will be N plus, oxygen it is O plus. Now what is N plus electronic arrangement? 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. What is the O plus electronic arrangement? 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. Because after removing one electron, oxygen, what is a normal oxygen? Normal oxygen is what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. We remove one electron from the p subshell, means the arrangement becomes what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. Now here, in case of this oxygen, we have that half filled. Not oxygen here, it is O plus. In case of the O plus, we have the half filled p structure. So removing electron from here, right? Removing electron from here will be difficult, because it is what? It is now having the half filled p structure. So when it comes to the second ionization energy, right, nitrogen will not be more than oxygen. It is what? The oxygen that is going to be more than nitrogen. Why? Because after removing one electron, the electronic arrangement of O plus has become what? The O plus ion electronic arrangement has become the previous nitrogen arrangement, which is the half filled p structure. That way it will require more energy for the removal of electron. That is so the C is what? Incorrect. D is saying what? Nitrogen is more than oxygen in electron affinity order. See, electron affinity, right? So when we move from left to right, the electron affinity values will be increasing. In this there is no anomaly. In a period we don't have any anomaly in the electronic affinity. So which means what? The oxygen value is more than nitrogen. Okay, so fluorine value will be more than oxygen, like that. So the correct answer is what? Option B is the right one. Okay, we will go to 17th question. The atomic numbers of two elements A and B. what are these 17 and 20? So if we are a little bit comfortable with the table means we can even straight away answer. So what is this element A? Basically element A is chlorine, element B is what? Calcium. Okay, the formula of an ionic compound made by A and B will be, okay, so we have to write what is the formula of the ionic compound. So generally when we write the formula of the ionic compound, right, we will write the cation first, that is the convention. Okay, so here if you look at these 17 and 20, I mean here we are supposed to answer this question probably without even knowing that, okay, so A is chlorine and B is calcium. So if you look at the electronic arrangement, right, so we can write the electronic arrangement. 17 chlorine, what is it? 1s2 2s2 2p6 3s2 3p5. so the outermost orbit is having 7 electrons. It is short of 1 electron, means it wants to gain 1 electron. Okay, whereas atomic number 20, which is our calcium, it will have what? 1s2 2s2 2p6 3s2 3p6 and then 4s2. It is having 2 electrons in the outermost orbit, 4th orbit. It can lose these 2 electrons. So the A, which is our chlorine, so has got a valency of in fact we can say 1 or -1 because it wants to gain 1 electron. B, which is the calcium, will have a valency of +2. So if you want to look at what is the formula, we will remember the crisscross method. What is the crisscross method? We have to crisscross the valencies. Okay, so here we can, when we write in the formula, we can omit the signs. So it is what? 2 will come here and 1 will come here, means what? A is a 2 and B is 1. A is 2 and B is 1. But which is the cation here? B is the cation, right? But convention wise we have to write the cation first, means what? We should write it as Ba2. Okay, so what is that formula? Actually it is CaCl2. What is the formula? It is CaCl2. So this is a question that we probably will be able to answer even at the 10th level, even in 10th standard, right? We'll get these kind of questions. Okay, so next question number 18. So look at this. For an element, the successive ionization energy values in electron volt per atom. Electron volt is a small unit of energy. What is the conversion? 1 electron volt will be equal to 1.6 in 10 power minus 19 joules. Okay, successive ionization energy values means what? This is what we're talking about, right? IE1 is what? 12.32. then IE2, we can see it clearly, yeah? Successive values will keep increasing. Then IE3, what is the third? 44.56. then what is IE4? What is IE4 value? 65.73. then IE5, we can see step by step it is increasing. 203.9. IE6, what is it? 251.212. Okay, then we have IE7. What is IE7? 308.4. the element that satisfy the above values. See, whenever we have a question like this, right, based on the successive ionization energy values, they will ask what is that element. We cannot clearly say what is the element, but what they will ask is, which of the elements will actually satisfy this. How do we know which will satisfy? When we look at the successive ionization energy values, we know for a matter of fact that they will keep increasing. That is okay. But if you take a closer look at it, right, so 12.32, it is becoming 26.84. It is becoming 44.56. It is becoming 65.73. Suddenly it is becoming 203.9. You see a large jump. You see a large jump from 65.73 to 203.9. Which means what? Here we removed 1 electron, 1 more electron, 1 more electron, 1 more electron. After removing 4 electrons, totally how many electrons we removed? 4 electrons. Okay. The removal of the 5th electron is requiring lot of energy. Means what? Maybe the element is moving away from a very stable arrangement. That is why you are requiring lot of energy. Which means what? The number of valence electrons. So wherever we have a sudden jump, right, it means what? That is where we are moving away from a stable arrangement. Generally, what is a stable arrangement? The stable arrangement is what we can refer to as the inert gas arrangement, the stable structure. Okay, so till 4 electrons you are removing, you see that the ionization energy values are increasing. but you want to remove the fifth electron means you are seeing a sudden jump, means the number of valence electrons of the element must be what? 4. So we look at the options: silicon, calcium, aluminum, sulfur. Silicon, what is the number of valence electrons? 4. Calcium, number of valence electrons 2. Aluminum, number of valence electrons is what? 3. Sulfur, the number of valence electrons is 6. So what is the option that is going to match here? It is silicon. We don't know, whether this is really silicon or not, because we don't know whether the silicon will have 12.3 to 26.84 like that. We are able to conclude the answer based upon the trend. What is the trend that is looking here? After the IE4 value, from IE4 to IE5, we are seeing a sudden jump. Means till the removal of 4 electrons, you see an increase, but step by step, gradual. From the 4th electron removal to the 5th electron removal, you are seeing a sudden jump. Means what? That is where you are moving away from a stable arrangement, which is typically our inert gas arrangement. Means the element could be having 4 valence electrons, and the one that will suit our requirement is what? Silicon. Okay. We'll go to next question. Question number 19. The screening effect of d electrons is. D electrons means what? The electrons which belong to the d subshell. The electrons that will belong to d subshell. That is what we are calling as the d electrons. What is screening effect? So if you have a nucleus, right, the electrons in the outer orbit, they will not experience all the effect of the nucleus. The inner shell electrons, they will screen, or they will, we can say, shield. Okay. So if you look at the shielding effect order, right, S orbital or S subshell electrons, because their distribution is what? An S subshell, if you have a nucleus, right, S subshell will be what? It will be symmetrically distributed around the nucleus. So it will be able to screen. The screening effect of the S subshell will be what? More prominent, because it is symmetrically distributed. Whereas if you go to the P, so the distribution of electron cloud is only along the lobes. If you go to D, diffused. Okay. If you go to F is even more diffused. So what we'll observe is, generally, right, the screening effect order will be S will be more than T, more than D, more than F. That is the screening effect order. S electrons, because they are spherical in, S electron cloud is what? Spherical in shape. We talked about it in the structure of atom chapter. So it will be able to prevent the effect of nuclear power acting on the outermost electron more strongly than in the case of P, than in the case of D, than in the case of F. Okay. So the screening effect of D electrons, right, will be, what is it? It will be much less than the S electrons. It will not be more than S electrons. It will not be equal to S electrons. It will not be equal to P electrons. It will be what? It will be much lesser than the S electrons. In fact, in case of F, it will be even more lesser. So the symmetric distribution of the S subshell electrons around the nucleus is the reason for the high screening effect of the S subshell electrons. They will be able to screen or shield the nuclear power from affecting the outermost orbit electrons. We look at question number 20. The first ionization potential. Ionization potential is a different way of looking at the ionization energy. So ionization potential means how much electrical potential we have to apply so that we will remove the electron. Okay. So let us say, for example, we have to apply a potential of 20.5 volt. Then the corresponding energy requirement will be what? It will be what? 20.5 electron volt. So if you express the value in electron volt means we'll call it as an ionization energy. If you just give the voltage value means we'll call it as what? Ionization potential. The first ionization potential means what? The potential that is required for the removal of the first electron. The first ionization potential of aluminum is smaller than the magnesium. In fact, in previous question we talked about this beryllium and boron. So beryllium belongs to the second group and boron belongs to either we'll say 3A or 13th group. Okay. So beryllium is having what? 1s2 2s2 structure. Boron is having 1s2 2s2 2p1. In that case we said beryllium already the 2s subshell is filled, so difficult to remove it. Whereas in the boron case it is the lone electron in the 2p. It's a lone electron in the 2p level, which is easy for the removal. Okay. So now a similar question. So we have a magnesium Below beryllium, what comes in the same group? Magnesium. Below boron, what comes? Aluminium. So magnesium, if you look at it, right, it will be 3s2. I'm talking about the outermost. Aluminum, it will be what? 3s2, 3p1. Now the first ionization potential of aluminum is smaller than that of the magnesium. Again, what is the reason? Aluminum will have a lower electron in the 3p. It has only one electron in 3p, which is easy for the removal, whereas magnesium is having 3s2 structure. The 3s subshell is fully filled. That is why it is difficult to remove in the case of magnesium. So why aluminum is having a smaller ionization potential than magnesium? We will say aluminum has just one electron in the p orbital, which makes it easy for the removal in comparison to the magnesium. Magnesium is having the 3s subshell is filled, so difficult to remove the electron. So what is the correct answer for this? Option C. It is not option A. Option A is what? Aluminum size is more than magnesium. In fact, aluminum size will be less than magnesium. Why? When we move from left to right, size will actually decrease. This is not the correct. Option B is saying aluminum atomic size is less than magnesium. So here, aluminum size is less than magnesium. Generally, when the size is reducing, right, what we observe is the ionization potential values will be increasing. That is the thing. No, when you move from left to right, what do we see? Size decreases. Hence, ionization energy or ionization potential values will be increasing. That is the normal scenario. But here we are talking about the exception. Aluminum is less than or smaller than magnesium. What is the reason? Aluminum has got that one lone electron in the p, which can be removed easily in comparison to magnesium. Here we are not saying it is easy to remove the one electron of aluminum. We are just comparing it. In comparing with the removal of that electron from the 3s2 structure, it is relatively easy to remove the electron from the 3p1 structure. So the answer for this is option C. So this is about the first NEET work session on the periodic classification of elements, and we will see in the next work session.